Today's video is going to show you how to make a square mug that has a handle attachment to it. Here are the things you're going to need. This gray material, it's called vinyl. It's actually a protective layer that's going to make it so that your clay doesn't stick to the table. You're going to need water, a ruler, clay, which I will hand out when you are ready, a carving tool, and a rolling pin. So the first thing I'm going to do is I need to flatten this clay. I need to make it into a slab. The way you want to flatten this at first is I like to stand up and just kind of press it down. So I'm just using the weight of my body to press down first, and then we will introduce the rolling pin. So as we know, a flat piece of clay is called a slab, so that's the terminology we'll be using when we talk about flat clay. Now some people will do this and they have their hands on the side and it works okay, but I have noticed that when you put your hand in the middle of the roller, it gives you a lot more control and you're actually allowed to transfer a lot more power. So here's the goal. You need to keep in mind this number, 9 inches. We're going to make a 9-inch square. So a square that is 9 inches tall and 9 inches wide. So I'm going to continue to flip and roll this until I can measure 9 inches tall and 9 inches wide. So now as I rest my ruler up against it, I can tell it's definitely 9 inches across, definitely 9 inches down. So now we have some cutting to do. This is where you're going to take your carving tool and measure from 0 to 9 and just make a cut. All right, I'm going to make a little mark at 9, so I know that's where my next cut is coming. So we go from 0 to 9. Again, we're trying to make a square. I'm going to make a little mark at 9 because I know that's where my next cut's going to go. So I'll go all the way around until I have a square. Go up to here, down to the 9, and last but not least, up here. And now we've got a 9 by 9 square. Now here's what you need to do with this. Before you even worry about actually making the mug, I'm going to take some of these extras and I'm going to make myself a little handle out of here. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to cut myself a little rectangle. There's no official size that this needs to be. Okay, I think I'm going to go about, I like this one better. About that long. Maybe cut off some of it. And you can always measure it with your finger. Like, okay, if I was holding this, if this was a mug I was holding, maybe I want it to be about this long. I'm going to cut it. And I'm going to make it into like a little ear shape. So I'm going to stand it on its side like this, but I'm actually going to fold it into a little ear shape. I'm going to let that go off to the side. So I'm putting it off to the side so that it will take that shape. Because as I work on this, that is going to be drying and hardening. And that's going to be the shape of the handle. So now back to actually making this into a mug. Here's how this is going to work. Again, we need to do some more measuring. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to measure down 3 inches, make a dot. I'm going to measure up 3 inches, make a dot. Basically, you're starting at the edge and you're making a little dot at 3 inches all the way across. 3 inches, make a little dot. 3 inches down, make a dot. 3 inches over. So the magic number is 3 in this case. 3, and then I'm going to do one more where I go 3, and now I've got all these little dots. Well, what am I doing with all these? I'm actually going to do some cutting. I'm going to cut down to 3 inches and stop. Then I'm going to cut over, and look at that, I'm going to bump right into the line I made. Basically, now we're turning our square into a plus sign. So I go 3 inches, cut, 3 inches over, make a cut. So it started out like a square, and now it's a plus sign. So we go over. Magic number on this is 3, and all this extra will get tossed back into a bag, and we can always reuse this stuff. In fact, you might be using clay that was already used at one time and we just repurpose it. Alright, so now we've got ourselves a plus sign. Now, what you want to do with this plus sign is go around the perimeter and start making little hatch marks. This is called scoring. We're getting this ready to be attached to the other pieces of clay. So I'm going to go around, I'm gonna do that. All right, so I've gone around, I've got the scoring all done, and now it's just a matter of lifting. What you wanna do is, after you score each side, I'm going in for some water. So here's my water over here. All I'm doing, fingertip worth of water, and I'm getting the edges ready to attach by just putting water on it. That's it. All right? Now it's a lifting part. So you're gonna lift this edge. This becomes the side of your square mug, like so. Then you lift this side, and it comes together, and they attach. Now, you can't just squish them together. There's actually a very specific art technique you need to do, where you need to actually blend them together. So notice I'm taking my carving tool, and my carving tool has now become more like a blending tool. I'm trying to blend this together so that you can no longer see the seam that was separating them, using my fingers, using the carving tool, and it just blends it together so it looks like it's one piece. It looks like they belong together. And you would repeat this to the other 3 sides. So I'm at a point where all 4 corners are completely closed up. So you can notice there's no seam. So it looks like they actually belong together, like they were attached together. And no water would drip through these, because if you think about it, this is actually a functional work of art. You can drink out of this. It's like a real ceramic mug. So now we got to go back and get that handle. So remember this guy we were working on? Now it's time to attach it. So here's how that's going to work. I am going to do some more scoring. So all I'm going to do is on the side where it's going to be attached, right here, I'm going to do some scoring. And the same thing over here. I'm just trying to get them prepped. And I want to think, I'm going to attach it right about here. So I'm going to do some scoring there too. And down the side, because that's about where it's going to be attached. And water. Water is the key. A little bit of water down the sides, a little bit of water on the handle. And now it's just a matter of making the handle stay attached. All right, so I'm going to attach it at the top, then I'm going to attach it at the bottom. But I can't just leave it like this. So look what's going on here. You can't just leave it like that with a seam. You actually need to blend it out by pressing down lightly. Okay, I'm going to press down so that it looks like the handle has become part of the actual clay. We want it to look like they are together. They're one piece. And same thing up here. We want to blend these together so that it appears as though it is one piece. Otherwise, it'll fall off, and that won't be a real functional handle at all. All right, you're at a point where you need to make sure you flip it over, put your name on it in a way that I'd be able to read it. Right? You can take some water, smooth out some of the imperfections if there's some cracking or anything like that. But the name is very important right now. So I'm going to flip it over, and using my carving tool, I'm just going to write my name. So I'm going to write Mr. D. Please write your first and last name. This is going to be one of the only guaranteed ways I can get this back to you. And now it's a waiting game. We have to wait for it to be dry. Once it is dried off, it is ready to be glazed. So here we have a mug that is bone dry. It's ready to be glazed. Notice the color has changed because all the water is gone. It's ready to be glazed with, it's like a liquid glass. That's what I want you to think of when you think of glaze. So you're going to need a palette. You're going to need some glaze. And I'm just going to use this green. You can use whatever color you want. You don't have to use one color, but I think for this video, I'm just going to use one color. This is a time where I really say glob it on there. It's okay to really, really cover this thing. There's only one huge rule that you have to follow, and that is do not glaze the bottom. If you do not know why, here's the reason. If you glaze the bottom and you put it in the kiln, the glaze will actually stick to the kiln, and I'll have to destroy your work to get it out. So I'm just going to go along here and glaze the rest of this. All right, so we've got this covered. Really, the only part you don't want to be glazing is the bottom. So if you happen to get any on the bottom, obviously we can scrub it off, but really try your best not to get any on there. It's fully covered, and notice the light green. Now, when this thing goes and gets glazed, watch the difference when it actually comes out of the kiln. The color changes. So here's our finished piece. Look what's happened now. It's all shiny, totally different color green than you might be used to, but that is your finished square mug with handle. Handle is fully attached, and it's ready to go.